Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, I'm Jack, I'm a 26-year-old accountant and I'm based in London. Today I wanted to run through with you what a personal knowledge management system is, otherwise referred to as PKM, which is what I'll be calling it this video because it's a bit of a tongue twister, to go through the ways that you can build one, what they are, and also some of the applications that I find useful in building this PKM system. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. You're probably here today because you've either heard the phrase PKM being thrown around or you're looking at a new way of revising or studying. This is the method that I use predominantly for anything that I'm doing now. It was used a lot for my exams at the start and now it's being used more for my skill building. So for example, coding at the moment is what I'm working on. A PKM system is really very simple. It's about how you gather information and then how you store it, how you sort of split up the divide of information and how you categorize it properly. And it's all to do with making the information really easy to recall at a later date. The whole PKM idea is stemmed from the fact that we all need to now take responsibility for our growth and our learning. Now, a PKM system doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be detailed, it doesn't have to require any installation of anything. You could easily use a pen and paper to build a PKM system. Would I suggest a pen and paper? Well, not personally for me, because I'm quite forgetful. I leave things around all over the place. I used to regularly at university pack a bag, go to university and then forget to repack my old books in for the next day. You know, I was just very forgetful. The one thing I do always have on me though is a phone. So I use an application called Notion. As part of this mini series, I'm going to be putting together a list of available applications you may want to use. But even if you're just starting, something you could use, for example, is Apple Notes. That's a really basic way of starting. No installation required. You can start literally watching this video to build a PKM system. The reason that I'm making this video today is to give a very simplistic and basic approach to just get people started on building a PKM system. I wish I'd known about PKM systems when I was at university. I only started using them when I found my exams were getting very difficult towards the end of my CIMA qualification. Especially the last 3 exams, they were all done exclusively in my note-taking app, which is Notion, and I would not actually probably have passed those exams if I hadn't done it in this way, if I hadn't learned how to structure a system like this. So as I see it, there are 4 really key stages to building and maintaining a PKM system. The first and most important is just collating information. You want to be able to take down information as soon as you see it, as soon as it becomes available to you. So for example, at the moment, I'm using Notion a lot for recipes and then also, as I said, for my coding. So what I'm doing is as I come across something new that I don't understand or didn't know previously, I'm then taking notes on it into my Notion. The value of this is that I still have a full-time job that I'll be going back to whenever the lockdown period is over in the UK. So I don't want to lose all that information within 2 weeks of being back at work. The reason that I'm building this system is so that when I go back to working 40+ hours a week, I then don't have a total mind blank when it comes to say I want to start coding again at the weekend. It's all now in this note-taking app, which means that I've then got a bank of memory and bank of knowledge to draw down from without then having to go and recap and reread and potentially lose a lot of time doing so. Secondly, we need to make sure the information we've collated is then stored in the right locations. What you'll find yourself doing in a meeting or a lecture, for example, is writing just down all the notes that you come across, maybe sometimes not even taking a break just for writing because there's so much content. When all of this is on one page, it's then our responsibility, maybe once a week, maybe at the end of the day, to then filter the information and to put it into the correct locations. The third part, which then sort of stems off the side of this, is that making sure that on the topics that we're really well versed in, so in my case, at the moment it's coding, I've got a lot of information on, what I'll then be doing is I'll only be adding new information. I won't be adding information that is already in my PKM system. On topics that are new though, it's very easy and very understandable to note down all of the information that you come across. And actually, I wouldn't stop doing this at all. I think it's very valuable to start with a subject to get a very wide, very brief understanding of all basic aspects to then help develop them up. I'm taking that approach with my coding, for example, and I'm going to learn a basic level across everything and then hopefully develop that system up. But at the moment, I'm taking notes on pretty much every single tag or anything else that I come across. Finally, we move on to actioning the information. This is just making sure the information has value to us. We want to put it into action as quickly as possible. So for example, we may choose, if it's a recipe in my case, things that I'm learning to cook, I may take a snapshot of the recipe. I then might take a few notes on it, and then what I might do is the next day go and develop the recipe and understand it, potentially change the measurements in the note-taking app if they didn't quite work for me, or if I found a different temperature worked better. It's really important here to make sure that the information you're taking down, you're getting value from. And actually, when you're collating it at that stage, you can take down as much as possible, but as it gets filtered through, it gets very much more specific, down to the point where when you're actually actioning it, that is the point then when you can decide whether it's still relevant to be part of your PKM system. At this point, I've mentioned 4 steps. Now, they don't have to be done in any particular order. Don't think of these like an instruction list. Take the approach that works best for yourself when building your PKM system. You don't want to be doing something you feel is necessary if it's not working for you. You have to tailor it to work specifically for the amount you're consuming and the way that you store information. As I mentioned earlier, I use an application for this. It's very easy for me then to take down URLs, to take down images, and store them all in one place, and then once a week maybe I'll go through and I'll filter all that information out into other locations. That for me is my preferred way of doing it at the moment, using, as I mentioned, Notion, but there are other such applications that I'll be going through in a later series, and they all are just really as good as each other. The value of a PKM system is it existing. It doesn't matter where it exists, and to some degree people will all prefer different applications because they work better for them. I prefer Notion purely because it's something that I've come across recently in the last year and a half or so, and it's something that's added a huge amount of value to me so far. So at this point, I won't obviously be moving elsewhere because there's a huge amount of information being stored in this system I'm using now. If you've got any questions about building a PKM system, please leave them in the comments down below. I've also put my blog and my Twitter if you want to reach out to me or read anything else on the topic. I speak about PKM systems in a couple of my blog posts so far, which I'll link actually specifically to those blog posts as well. Thank you very much if you stayed this far. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. It helps me grow the channel massively, and I'll see you next time.